Hello, everyone. Welcome to ConnectLive 2020, virtual, of course. I'm Chuck Davis. I'm president and co-founder of Adaptive Solutions, and I want to thank you for joining us today for our session. We will be speaking to you for about 20 minutes on the topic of, are you ready for the cloud? The goal over the next few minutes is to help you understand how you may want to go about jumpstarting a project for a migration and some of the challenges that we've seen before. Over the last few months, we've seen a lot of change in the social and the business world that we're working in. And in speaking to both our corporate and legal clients, we found that the one thing that is the common denominator is that cloud technology is really making a difference in the way people do business. So we're hoping to spend a little bit of time with you to educate you, talk about some best practices, and hopefully give you some ideas and pointers on how to make your cloud migrations just a little bit more smooth. So let me start very briefly with the agenda we're talking about today, and then we'll get into welcomes and introductions. So we're going to talk about 5 key points today, or 5 critical areas where we feel that we want to start your cloud project and be ready to empower you to move quickly and efficiently into a cloud strategy. It's been our experience in working with our clients over the years that a lot of times we get to a project kickoff meeting and clients just aren't ready, and they have to take a step back and rethink their strategy or reassemble the right people and process. So we're hoping that through this Jumpstart session, we'll be able to get you better prepared so that as you move into a cloud engagement, you'll be ready to take those initial steps and move forward. So without any further ado, let me move to the next slide and introduce our speakers today. We're very pleased to have with us both Jennifer Parker and Todd Barrett. Jen, I'll let you go first.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Parker. I've been with Adaptive Solutions for 7 years. I'm currently serving as the Chief Experience Officer, which means that I spend a lot of time working with our clients doing business analysis, figuring out what the best fit solutions are and how to customize those solutions to best fit the workflows of the law firm or corporate legal department. I bring to this job over 20 years of experience in the legal industry.
Thank you, Jennifer. Todd, please.
I'm Todd Barrett. I am the Chief Technology Officer. I've been with Adaptive for about 12 years. I've been in the legal industry for 15 years, and I work with the clients primarily in areas of security and infrastructure and troubleshooting problems.
Wonderful. Thank you, Todd. And as I said previously, I'm Chuck Davis. I'm president and one of the co-founding partners of Adaptive Solutions. Been in the adaptive business for just approaching 22 years and in the legal industry since the late 80s. So I am a recovering legal IT professional. And I will say that we're very happy to be a diamond sponsor of ConnectLive this year, and also very proud to be the 2019 iManage Cloud Excellence Partner, meaning that our firm has assisted a very large majority of customers moving into the cloud with the highest level of success rates. So guys, let's jump in and make this kind of a virtual roundtable conversation so we keep it engaging and lighthearted so we can share some of our experiences and try and focus on the 5 topics. Does that sound good?
Right.
Yep. All right, good. All right, so the first one I think that we want to talk about, and I think it's critical to any project, is having the right team. So Jen, I'm going to ask you to speak from the Chief Experience Officer's role, who our clients need to bring to the table, what they should be prepared for, and share some of that early thinking with us, please.
Right. So I think the first thing to take into account is, what kind of project is this? Are you simply doing a lift and shift where you're taking your current on-premise iManage environment, moving it to the cloud, and you don't expect your users to see a lot of change? Or is this a brand new iManage implementation, or you're making a lot of changes to your iManage environment in order for your users to have a better, more modern document management experience? If it's the latter, it's very important that you frame this as a business project and not as a technical project. So you want to make sure that on your team you have a business sponsor and potentially some other folks who are from the business side who have a high stake in the project. We also definitely recommend having a project manager. These projects can get very complex and require people from various areas of your firm. Even if they're not business projects, you're bringing people together from network, security, etc. So having a project manager is key. We provide one from the vendor side, and we always expect our clients to provide one on their side as well.
That's great. Todd, how about on the technical side? Who are we seeing come to the table on the IT side of the house or the InfoSec side of the house?
So you could have a number of different people that are required, but you'll almost always need somebody from security because you're going to have to set up a way to authenticate into the cloud. You'll probably need somebody from your infrastructure team as well, and possibly, depending on what you're implementing, one of your exchange people.
Jen, I think I may have cut you off back there. Did you have another thought you wanted to put in, or were we good?
Well, now, just to kind of add to what Todd is saying, once you have all of these folks together, one of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is clearly communicating to everybody on your project team what the expectations are and what the deliverables are. You want to have a clear sense at the beginning of the project, what are the goals of our project? What are we trying to accomplish? What are the business problems we're trying to solve?
I think that's a great point. Guys, are we good on the project team? Is that what our primary point is? It's all about people, right, when we're doing these projects.
Correct.
Used
The
to be
right
about
team,
technology.
yeah, the right team definitely leads to project success.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go to number 2. So number 2, I don't think we can have any conversation in today's world, especially with people working from home, that is more strongly centered around technology such as security. So in this one, Todd, as our Chief Technology Officer, I know you have a strong security background. Talk to us a little bit about some of the concerns that clients have or what they should be thinking about when they're coming into the iManage Cloud project specific to security.
So if you're going to be implementing iManage always recommends that you use a single sign-on provider, somebody like Okta or Azure that will provide security when you're logging in. There are other ways to gain access to iManage, but they're generally not recommended and they're not very secure. So if you're thinking about an iManage Cloud implementation, you should already have a vendor lined up or be using a vendor. If you don't, you're going to want to get that set up right away, and you're going to need that before we even start. Along those same lines, client security. How are you going to do your security? How are you going to be connecting to the cloud? Are you going to let your users connect from any workstation inside or outside of the corporate environment? If you're not going to allow people to connect, you're going to have to figure out what are they going to do when they're working remotely. So those are some things that you should have thought of ahead of time or be thinking about so that you have some answers or at least some ideas of how you want to implement. And then, of course, there's the whole encryption piece. iManage now offers you the ability to bring your own keys and do your own encryption of your documents. But if you do that, it brings along a lot of complexity. And it requires you to have an Azure Key Vault. That's the only supported method of bringing your own encryption. So if you're not familiar with that, that's something that you're going to need to look into and set up before you can even begin implementing your project.
A couple of questions for you, Todd, around security. What about a VPN? Clients often ask, do I need to have a VPN directly to the cloud data center? Is that
Yeah.
required in today's world anymore?
So you don't need a VPN to the cloud data center at all. However, if you decide that you do not want your users to be able to access your iManage implementation from anywhere and from only the corporate environment, then when users are working remotely, they're going to need to be able to VPN back to your environment so they can connect up to the cloud. So there could be a VPN in your future depending upon your implementation.
So those folks would backhaul through the corporate network and then jump into the
Yes.
cloud through a second hop, right?
Correct. And that provides an added level of security. You can't connect to your documents from just anywhere. It has to be from certain approved IP addresses.
That makes perfect sense. And that will allow a client to regulate who connects from where and from what device.
Exactly. So it's a lot more secure. However, it's also a lot more cumbersome because you have to have that VPN in place.
Makes sense. And Jen, there's a whole nother section of security that we should talk about, which revolves around information governance that comes with an iManage project. Do you want to dive into a little bit of that, please?
Sure, and I won't spend a lot of time here, but in the ever-changing world of information governance, it's really important, especially if you have an international presence, to know what the regulations are around data sovereignty. Because it could be that you need to have more than one quote-unquote cloud. It could be that you have to have some data that can only live in Europe, some data that can only live in Asia, etc. So you want to know what your requirements are before you get into a cloud project, both your legal requirements and your client requirements.
What about tools like Security Policy Manager and Need to Know Security? Do we see firms starting to move in that direction?
We definitely do. We've seen a large adoption of Security Policy Manager because it really allows firms to not only manage ethical walls, but also the need to know type of security that you just mentioned. And it gives users more control over that type of security without having to call IT to add somebody to a particular matter. As far as the, I'm sorry, the second thing you asked was?
No, it was around the Security Policy Manager and the Need to Know model.
Yeah, so
I think we're good on that one. And I think what we've seen is that in some instances on the day of go live, people are used to using very open systems where they had access to everything. They come in that Monday morning and they say, hey, where did my data go? It's not really that it's gone. Information governance could be playing a role in what they see moving forward in a live project, correct?
yes, and I will say the majority of our clients still have fairly open systems, but depending on the clientele, there are definitely firms that we deal with or corporate legal departments we deal with that have needs for certain things to be very secured.
I would agree. We see that changing a little bit faster these days. Excellent. So I think we're good on security. We've got through 2 of the 5. Let's move to the next one, which is always a big one when it comes to moving to the cloud, which is the data migration strategy. And this really speaks to what we're taking, how we're going to take it. I think our golden rule, guys, is always keep it simple, right? Not overcomplicating this. Who wants to take a stab at talking through a little bit about some of the early planning with data migration strategies?
So I would just say that often we will go into a firm or a corporate legal department and there will be 10, 15, 20 years of data that people have on a previous DMS, within iManage, within file shares. And you should be very thoughtful about what information it makes sense to bring into the cloud and what information it might not. Take a look at your retention policies, take a look at what's been accessed. We have a lot of tools, as many of you may as well, that can analyze what data is even used. Because when you move to the cloud, it's a really great opportunity to make your environment clean and more usable. I would also say that when we try and be too white glove and give people a very detailed migration and mirror exactly what they currently have, or do a lot of complicated mappings, what we often find is more confusion at a very high cost. So we definitely recommend think about what you need to bring over, have a plan, but keep that plan simple.
Todd, tell us a little bit about the concepts of alpha and delta migration strategies and how they are used through our migration process.
Right. So when you're taking your data, and if you have a lot of data, what we'll find is that we need to seed that data or do an initial copy of it up there. We call that an alpha. And then when we're ready to actually go live, do a second copy where we pick up all of the changes from the first copy, the alpha, and apply them up to the cloud. We call that the delta. And sometimes we need to run multiple deltas. So that dovetails into needing a tool that can track what you've migrated so far and what's changed since you've done that migration. So there are a lot of third-party tools out there. I know that we have a tool that we developed in-house that helps us do those migrations, but you need to be thinking about what tool or tools you're going to need to copy up your data in a way that's going to meet your business needs.
Especially if firms are moving, large terabytes of data, tens of
Exactly,
terabytes of
yeah.
data. It just can't move in one night. It's not
No,
efficient.
it can't. And that's why you have to have a tool that can track what's been moved and what's left,
And to do it safely, I
what's
believe
changed.
iManage's
Right.
recommendation is to do it through the API, not to take any damage or corrupt database structure, and start off with a
Correct.
nice, clean set of data in the cloud, consistent data.
Correct.
Super. Okay, guys, I'm going to watch the clock and keep us moving. So the next one is system compatibility. And this is one that we in the sales role often have to slow down the process to understand or discover what people are using and what their expectations are. And then we hand it off to you folks in operations who have to satisfy that. And sometimes we find out that certain operating systems or applications just won't work. Maybe Todd, you could talk about some of the roadblocks we run into and what to look out for from a gotcha standpoint.
Right. So, there are still clients out there running Windows 7 32-bit. Those will not be compatible. If you're running an Office that's older than 2013, that's also not going to work. So when you're thinking about your cloud project, take a look at what your infrastructure is made of and make sure that everybody's running a Windows 10, that it's 64-bit, and that you're running a reasonably current version of Office so that when you go to integrate your work environment, you know it's going to be compatible. Take a look at your integration points. What are you going to need to work with iManage, and is it compatible? Is the version compatible? Are you going to require an upgrade? These are some of the things you're going to want to think about. And then there's workspace generation. Are you going to be generating your workspaces by hand? Do you expect it to be done automatically? If so, you're going to need a tool to do that. You're going to have to set it up. You're going to have to integrate it with whatever your business tool is, usually the accounting system, but it might be something else. Are you going to be able to get that data out?
Right. In a corporate world, it could be a matter management system, a CRM, or something
Exactly,
else. In a
right.
law firm, typically time and billing. Jen, I know you
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about some of these points as well.
Yeah, so I would just add on with the integrations, because of the fast and furious pace iManage has had with upgrading and updating the work product, we have seen that there are some vendors that lag behind a little bit in getting their third-party tools working with iManage work. And we have found that the more of our clients who are putting pressure on those vendors, the faster that we see those applications being upgraded. So even before you think you're going to move to the cloud, even if it's a year prior, take a look at your third-party applications. Talk to your vendors, ask them how quickly they're developing, how fast it's going to be ready, how much they're lagging behind the iManage releases. Because if they know that a lot of their clients are asking, they're going to be more likely to prioritize those upgrades.
Right. And there are other add-ons we talk about frequently, especially in the corporate world when it comes to more than ECM, more than document management. People want contract management or workflow. And we've found these are great building blocks that sit on top of iManage that allow people to create project process behind content management. So they may be some areas that you want to look at today, or quite possibly they may be phase 2 or phase 3 projects down the road, right, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Correct.
And there's a lot of great already developed products that integrate with iManage. And as well, iManage has some great APIs. So if you're already running a workflow product, we have an in-house developer, or we can work with your developers to use those APIs to your advantage.
Great. I'm going to speed us up a little bit. We're getting down to the last couple of minutes for our session, but the last but not least piece, I think, is product launch and user adoption. And I'll let Jennifer start on this one, please.
So traditionally, product launches were always, let's train people, let's finish migrations over the weekend and do computer installs and then go live on a Monday. We are finding that in our new work from home model, people are being much more creative with how to launch iManage and how to get user adoption. More communication is key. Having additional types of training. We are still seeing live training, but it's happening via GoTo, Zoom,
Right.
and WebEx.
The attorneys have had months and months to learn how to work through a virtual session, right?
Right, definitely. But we're also seeing things like videos and quick how-tos. We're seeing shorter drop-in sessions of how to do X, Y, or Z. So be creative with how you're going to launch, but at a minimum, make sure you've put a lot of thought into how are we going to communicate this change and how are we going to support our users through this change.
Todd, one final thought on getting certified. What is your recommendation on getting the internal team ramped up on the iManage product and platform?
I think if you can get certified, you really should. It provides a lot of help when it comes time to troubleshoot. If you've had that certification, you've seen all of these systems before, you know how they work, you at least have some familiarity, which provides a lot of advantage for you and also for iManage support.
So when you're working through your project deal, talk to us at Adaptive, talk to your iManage reps, and make sure you include that into your budget and plan and process. Get your team certified. iManage is a great product, but it's technology. You should understand how to support it. So I think, guys, we could agree here. We have these 5 bullets that really speak for themselves. I'll run through them real quickly, and then we're going to wrap up for questions. So I think we've learned today that starting early is really key. The whole idea of jump starting is don't start your project the day you're coming to the kickoff meeting. Start thinking ahead of time. Jennifer and Todd have spoken highly about assembling the right team of people, and it's a broad team of people and technology and security. Understanding what your objectives are from both a business, a technology, and a security standpoint, you need to really have those concreted before you go into this project. And at the end of the day, you're picking a great product in iManage, but make sure you also select a qualified and experienced partner who has done enough cloud migrations, who can walk you through the process and deliver a really good outcome for you and your business. So with that, we're going to leave you with our contact information, and we will be staying around a little bit at the end of the session to field some questions and answers. So Todd, Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been my pleasure hosting this session for us.
Thank you.